70% of doctors across all specialties change jobs within just 2 years. Although being a doctor is one of the most prestigious career paths, it's still a job. In other words, it shouldn't be that big of a surprise that doctors move to different healthcare facilities. They may get a new job somewhere else for the same reason that they did any other professional. Maybe the doctor didn't mesh with the company's culture, didn't like his or her coworkers, didn't feel valued by upper management, had an opportunity to relocate and took it. The list of reasons why a doctor would leave his or her practice isn't finite. There are hundreds of reasons why it could happen. Another important statistic to keep in mind is that almost 20% of doctors have considered leaving their practice. In other words, healthcare organizations aren't immune from experiencing turnover. But walking away from your current place of work as a physician isn't as easy as it might be in other industries. It's a more sensitive and highly personal industry. Patients share their most intimate details with and confide in their physicians. This is also why it's one of the most highly regulated industries in the world, aka because of HIPAA. What I'm trying to say is that doctors can't just announce that they're leaving their practice, make a few phone calls to their favorite patients, and leave. There's a little bit more nuance to it, some of which involves legal obligations. Hi everyone, I'm Matt from Tactics, and today I'm going to give you examples of letters that notify patients of a physician leaving. Before we get started though, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the button below. While you're down there, hit that alert bell icon next to it as well, so when we post new helpful content, you get notified. Before I give you any examples, I need to explain the legal hoops physicians and their practices need to jump through before allowing a departure. Luckily, your state's medical board should be able to provide you some guidance as to what you're required to do before you leave the current practice that you work at as a physician. The Texas Medical Board, or TMB, provides a great resource that explains what physicians need to do before leaving their practice. More specifically, it points out that it's the physician's job to ensure that their patients receive reasonable notification, are given a chance to obtain copies of their records and or have the ability to transfer the medical records to a different medical professional, notify the board when they're terminating practice, retiring, relocating, when they're no longer available to patients, specify who has custodianship of records, and how to obtain medical records. The next logical question most Texas physicians would have after reading their responsibilities upon leaving is, what are the requirements on the type of notification? Of course, TMB has that covered as well. I did say that this board provides a helpful resource earlier. A newspaper that had the greatest general circulation in each county that the physician practices in, plus a local paper that gets distributed in the immediate practice area, in the physician's office as a written notice, and to patients seen in the last 2 years notifying them of discontinuance of practice. Now, the requirements for patient notification upon leaving differs for every state. Thus, you should check your medical board to see if they have a resource for you to reference. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's look at some of these examples. After hearing the requirements for notification in the previous section, your immediate reaction probably filled you with anxiety. How do you even begin to notify newspapers? You most likely aren't an experienced public relations professional, so you likely don't have a Rolodex full of media contacts to go through. However, it's the 21st century and you have all the tools that you need at the palm of your hands to get in contact with media outlets. You just don't know it yet. There are plenty of affordable press release services out there that you can utilize to satisfy any of your state's media requirements. Of course, then you're most likely wondering where to even begin with your press release. The first example letter for notifying patients of a physician leaving their practice comes from Medical Center Clinic. You'll quickly notice that it's actually not a letter that talks about a physician leaving. Rather, it's a new doctor welcome letter. Don't worry, I did that on purpose. This example is conceptual. Take a look at the different elements that the Medical Center Clinic added to its new doctor announcement. This press release has a title expressing excitement, quotes from the doctor, a picture of the doctor, and contact information. Each of those elements is the industry standard when it comes to press release creation. In other words, you should use this new doctor announcement press release as a template for creating your notification of leaving. Its format is superb while helping you satisfy media notification requirements. The second example I have for you comes from Palos Health, and it came through the mail. Mailing the notification letter to your patient satisfies another requirement laid out in TMB's resource. Although some patients may view mail as an archaic form of communication, it's still one of the most secure ways for healthcare organizations to keep in contact with their clients. Anyway, the formal letter from Palos Health states that the doctor that the patient used to see no longer works there. It also provides contact information and explains that transferring medical records is available upon request. Both of these satisfy requirements laid out by TMB. The third and final example I have for you is a digital announcement. One of the best ways to navigate the sensitive scenario where a physician leaves a practice is by having the doctor write a personal memo. Yet, it's a nice touch that will hopefully make the announcement a little bit easier to deal with from their patients' perspectives. The third grid example does exactly that. It also gets bonus points for creating it in a digital format. Kimberly Frothofer, ARNP, wrote a personal memo that announced her resignation from Palos Medical Center in June of 2013. Anyway, she did a great job being upfront about the situation and saying that she's leaving to return home from Montana. It's a very personal scenario, but her opening up makes the leaving so much more digestible from a patient perspective. The truth is, doctors don't always stay at the practice that they first started practicing medicine under. Although prestigious and highly regulated, being a doctor is a career. In other words, it's not fair to expect your doctor to not have a life outside of their profession. Maybe where they're currently practicing is far from where they consider their actual home. Or maybe they just don't mesh with their current organization's culture. Regardless of the reason, they're allowed to switch where they work. Of course, they can't just leave you high and dry. There are requirements that physicians who are leaving need to satisfy before their departure. Once they satisfy those requirements, it's up to the patient to find a replacement physician. If you'd like to learn more about sending letters to your patients, reach out to eTactics. And you already made it this far into the video, so you might as well like it, share it, and comment below. But what are you waiting for? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.